Welcome to Politically Basic. I'm your host, Kyle Campbell. As we always do, we're breaking down the basics of all political issues and current political events so that you get to decide. I've been excited about this one. We get to hear today from the fabulous Kaya Jones. She's the Grammy-winning gospel artist who's widely known for her transformation from Pussycat Doll to Christian vocalist. And she's just released a beautiful new album. But she also uses her powerful voice to advocate, educate, and inspire others. She's got an incredible story, and we can't wait to hear from her. Kaya, thank you so much for being on Politically Basic with me today.
Thank you so much, Kyle. I love it. Thank you.
Well, happy day. We're celebrating. You have worked so hard and just released a brand new album. We want to hear all about it. Can you share?
So the Royal Collection has been a process of about 4.5 years.
Wow.
And it's finally here. And so I'm just excited for you guys to listen to what the Lord was really pouring out of us. You know, all of us that were a part of the writing process, we just know that it was written by the Lord, that we can't take credit for it. We have to give him all the glory. And the message was clear. There was a theme, and the theme was that you're royal, that you're blessed and highly favored, and that you were made in his image. And so a lot of the things that the enemy is telling children today, people today, depression, anxiety, is that you're not enough, you're not good enough, nothing's enough. And the truth is that you are enough, but you need him. And so he doesn't want you to become something he didn't make. Yeah. He wants you to be exactly who you are, who he made, but with him. And so that's been the message of this album. Yeah.
Oh, so beautiful. I was looking at all of the different names of the songs on this album, and it just, you're not holding back. I think one's like, what's the one song called, like Devil Get Away or something?
Devil's a liar.
Devil's a liar. Yeah, he is. But I like that so much. It's very genuine. It's very honest. Yeah. And I can't wait for people to hear this music. I know they're going to be so inspired, and just getting to know you as an artist, because your work is so informed by this sort of wild professional journey that you have been on. Your story is remarkable. You had this skyrocket to fame. You had to navigate the sort of ever-changing, ever-morphing music industry, and then figured out that that's not what you wanted, that's not what God wanted for your life, and then moving away from it, which is so difficult to do, and finding success on the other side. So I know today I really, really want my listeners to hear your story. It's a wild one, and I hope that you can just take us through it right now. And how did you even come to be a Pussycat Doll in the first place, and what led to that change?
Well, it has been a journey. I mean, I kind of sometimes have to stop and go, whoa, like it feels like 10 lifetimes in one span. But I wanted to go into medical. Actually, as a little girl, I thought I was going to be a doctor, a cardiothoracic surgeon. Most of my family on my mom's side went into medicine. And then I had a dream of singing. Like, it was like, okay, if that could happen. And through a chain of events, my stepfather, who was raising me and very prevalent in my life, he was a business owner. He sold his company in 1993, and he sold his contact list, and that was illegal in the state of Nevada, and they put him in prison. Gosh. And so I went from having this really positive upbringing from an early childhood, not so positive, to then this positive upbringing, my dad doing all the right things, but at the time that was illegal. Now, Zuckerberg and a lot of others are doing just that, and they're not in prison. So that changed the course of my trajectory right away. Like, med school was out, and now I had to help my mom make ends meet. So I started singing at karaoke places and singing and singing and singing. And the next thing you know, I got my first record deal at 12 to R. Kelly.
Whoa.
And I'm always, exactly. Whoa. It's because, that's like, what a way to start, Yeah,
and so R. Kelly was your foray into the music industry.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And so R. Kelly, and being signed to Universal Music Group through R. Kelly, and not really understanding that there was only a few major conglomerates that run the music industry. I really didn't know that. I didn't understand that. Nothing was strange when it came to professionalism with Robert Kelly. I have to say that. It really was just, he was very professional, almost like a drill sergeant with me. I never saw any odd behavior toward me or threatening or predatory at all. I have to say that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that makes anyone feel any differently about him, but I almost had to scratch my head when people were saying the things that I was hearing, because I was like, are we talking about the same person?
Right, because it was so extreme what he was accused of, and
so extreme.
and then for you to have that experience with him and not see any of it, it's interesting. I'm glad that you say that, because I think that happens, right? Like that happens with people who do commit those acts, and other people say, I didn't see any of it.
No, I think they know who to do this to. Predators pick their prey very specifically. I never saw that with him. He was so hard on me finishing school, me getting my degree, me making sure that like everything, what I ate, what time I was at the sessions, it was like drill sergeant. So to hear like my drill sergeant was inappropriate, I'm like, what? Like, you've got to be joking. I never saw anything. I did see things, but not from him, from other producers that are still roaming and going around. And I'm thinking like, wait, he's the guy that they said did all this stuff. I didn't see that. I saw a very different person. What I will tell you is that it did. I think that's why when I got into the Pussycat Dolls, so from R. Kelly, I'm signed. Aaliyah dies August 22nd. 9/11 happens 2001. And basically the whole world goes upside down, right? In America, we just didn't know what we were going to do. We were thrusted into a war. And everyone that was signed to him had to be shelved. So he put me on a shelf and basically said, if another company comes along, I'll allow you to get bought out. I own your name for 3 years or 5 albums, whichever was greater. And I was like, okay, so what does that mean? So I had to just basically sit and wait. And I auditioned at Capitol Records. They gave me a development deal as a punk rock artist, but it wasn't the right fit because I was coming from R. Kelly, which was like all of these big vocals and all of that. So 6 months after that, I auditioned for the Pussycat Dolls, and I was excited. I was like, wow, this is going to be something really special. And I auditioned out of 5,000 women, and out of the 5,000 women, they selected the 3 of us, Melody, Nicole, and myself. And so that's how I joined the Pussycat Dolls.
Amazing. And maybe share with people, because, you know, I certainly remember it. Many people do know what this group was. But for those of our, you know, those in our audience who are young, and they don't know, this had a very specific niche. So what was the Pussycat Dolls about?
So the Pussycat Dolls, so the audition, how I even found out about it was on MTV News with Gideon Diego. He was like, you know, there's an audition for the Pussycat Dolls. So Pussycat Dolls were a burlesque troupe. They had already posed for Playboy. They were known as a very big burlesque troupe in Hollywood. They were famous in LA, and they would have guest appearances from like Charlize Theron or Pamela Anderson. Then they started to bring in musical guests like Gwen Stefani and Christina Aguilera and Pink. And so that then was the opportunity for them to think about this in a different way. And I believe it was Jimmy Iovine that showed up at the performance with Gwen Stefani. And he said, I think we can make this into a super group, but we need to look for girls who can sing and dance. And so that's when the open call audition began. And so, that's what they were before the 3 of us entered. And then when the 3 of us entered, that's when work began in the recording sense. All of us having some background in the music world, we knew that it was going to be a heavy lift. We were going to have to create an album. And these girls had success and they were known. And so some of them had to be released from their contract so that they could make room for the new girls, which was myself, Melody, and Nicole. So you're already dealing with a dichotomy of what was a group being changed. And I want to preface it by saying that because I think had we been a group that started from, you know, we're going to make this girl group, they're called the Pussycat Dolls, and we're going to make them from the bottom all the way to the top, I think it would have gone very differently. But what you were dealing with was 3 girls from the music industry, the rest of the girls not, and friends of theirs being kicked out in order to make room for us. So there was already a why are you here? My friend should be here attitude / well, if your friend could sing, we wouldn't need to be here. Right. So there was this like immediate, like, we're here because we're going to have to carry a load that you guys can't carry on your own. And if you could, we shouldn't be here. So it was already not a happy entrance.
Sure. And you guys did then really explode on the scene. And I want to go back just for a second, because I want people to understand that, you know, the music industry is so different today than it was when the Pussycat Dolls were at sort of the height of your success and people knowing about you, and when these major A-list celebrities would come on and dance. But burlesque was very risque back then. It was like you would see the, you know, Gwen Stefani's or the Charlize Theron's come and do that, and that was like pushing some boundaries for people. And it's so different now. You know, we've kind of seen everyone's everything, and the lyrics are so, you know, in your face and hypersexualized. But this was on that sort of edge of sort of sexiness and risque back then. And then coming in, you know, I didn't realize that those other members had posed for Playboy. Was there that pressure for you new members to do the same, to pose naked or pose for magazines or reach that same kind of level of exposure when you came into the group?
I did not. I don't think in my head I understood that. I think because I was coming from R. Kelly and Drill Sergeant, I was then in, you know, Capitol Records with musicians. I was coming from a very different world of like, you have to sing, you have to show what you can do to not only get in the room, but to stay in the room. And so I was with this very different notion mentally. I was coming from a place of, I have to, you know, go to bed early. I've got to make sure I'm drinking tea. I have to make sure I'm watching what I'm eating. I have to perform. And so when it started to feel like there was other expectations, that's when I was like, this is not what I signed up for.
And you've spoken very candidly about those expectations of being in that group and just being in the music industry. Really one of the most prominent, you know, girl groups at the time, if not the most prominent. Tell us a little bit about what that was like. What kind of pressures were being put on you at the time, and what were you going through?
Well, you know, at the time, immediate pressure was weight. Your weight always had to be regulated, and you had to remain a sample size if you could. So we were weighed. There were weigh-ins. That was the beginning of me understanding that this was different. It wasn't like when I was with R. Kelly or when I was with Capitol, like they cared about what I ate, but it wasn't like pressure to the level that it was with the Pussycat Dolls. So immediately it was like your weight, what you wore, how you did your hair, how you did your makeup. I remember I had like a hard time, even after leaving the Dolls, putting on like nude lipstick, because I used to be told, you know, by the owner that I looked like, you know, I looked too much like a playmate. Mind you, they posed for Playboy. I didn't.
Right.
And I'm thinking like I didn't look edgy enough. So, you know, I was only allowed to red lipstick. And I remember I would take it off because I didn't want to wear red lipstick. I wanted to wear natural. I was, you know, 19 years old. I just wanted to be me. And it was like, no, you had to. No tattoos. I remember an argument backstage of I had my belly button ring in. Mind you, I had it the whole time, you know, and the argument was in my face screaming before I get out on stage, like, you're not going out until you take it out. So it was a lot of control. What you ate. You got midnight phone calls about what you ate that day. There were people monitoring you on what you ate, who you were friends with, who you chose to date. And then propositions from executives and things of that nature that then began. So it went from I'm here to sing and be in part of a group, like the Spice Girls. Like I was excited. And then it turned into this was a different thing. And that for me was when I knew, like, how am I going to do this? This is not going to be possible.
Did it start to feel almost that you were not a human being anymore, that you were just this thing to be, you know, ordered around and you just had to do absolutely everything that they wanted?
Correct.
That's not healthy. And two, I think when you're an artist, I mean, that you're all about your personal, individual, creative nature. So that must have been very painful, I would imagine.
Extremely, extremely. And at the time that I was in the Pussycat Dolls, I was dating a Backstreet Boy. So I, would come home and be like, this is what I went through. And I'm expecting, that's not normal, or, you can leave, or you can, and then I would hear, no, that's normal. You should do that. And so it was kind of like,
wow.
Okay, so like this is just across the board what's expected in certain arenas with certain people. Now being still in the music industry, how many years later, and realizing there are great people in this business. And, I just unfortunately didn't encounter them. I went through the worst of them, unfortunately.
Yeah. So you're 19, you're barely an adult. You've been brought up through the R. Kelly school of, hard knocks and drill sergeant music industry, throwing yourself in the deep end of the pool. You're dating a Backstreet Boy. Which Backstreet Boy were you dating?
Nick Carter.
Well, okay. So that's kind of, I would imagine, maybe the most challenging one to be dating. And it sounds like you're fending off advances from other people in the industry at the executive level. I mean, girl, how much more can one you were a teenager. How much more can you take? And then was your mother or your stepfather at the time able to be offering you support through this?
No. So I remember even when we would have shows, we'd only get one ticket per Pussycat Doll. So
wow.
So you would have to like decide which friend or family member you were going to invite to a show. Everything was at a high level of, you're separated from friends and family. You don't have friends and family. Your group is the friends and the family, and that's it. So even when I had the abortion that I've been so public about, I've been public about all of the abortions that I went through in the music industry, and what it kind of did to train my brain that this wasn't something that mattered, and how God changed me. And that's why I share it, is because I hope the young women radically hear my story and go, oh my gosh, this girl gave me a nugget of truth. Maybe I shouldn't do this. Like, don't kill your babies. Don't do it. It is horrific. Like, just what you walk through, the PTSD from it. But I was performing. We had Divas Live that was coming up. It was a very big performance, which was going out to, I think it was like 23 to 25,000 people inside of the arena, and then out to 30 million people globally. And I had the abortion the day before. It was hemorrhaging. I wasn't well, and had to get on a plane, go into rehearsals, and then perform. And so it was just go mode. So I was hemorrhaging. I was not well. I'm performing, or I'm about to. Patti LaBelle is singing on stage, and I'm coming from the audience with another one of the Pussycat Dolls. We're coming through the audience and then up onto this riser, and then onto the stage with the rest of the girls. And so, that was quite a moment when you have a 4 and 5 year old little girl with her sister who's about 6 or 7, 8, with her mom and dad. And the little one says, Mommy, she's a Pussycat Doll. She was just so excited. And here I am, like, totally beaten, totally broken, going through the loss of my child because I was told that I had to get rid of it or I'd lose my job. Not having anyone to really lean on in that moment, and feeling like, what am I doing? Like, for what? And now this little girl thinks this is beautiful, and she thinks that she wants to be me, like how I wanted to be a Spice Girl. And I don't want her to be me. In fact, I don't want her to be any of us, because I know what all of us are going through. I got to get out of here. And how am I going to do it? And that was the beginning of the aha that was then like, I got to figure out a way out.
Yeah, that was your breaking point moment.
It was. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm so sorry and really heartbroken to hear that you went through that you endured it. The more you speak about it, the more it just sounds like they were treating you like a beast of burden, like an animal. And how many abortions did you end up having during this time?
So my first abortion was between the ages, I believe I was 16, and that was when I was with Capitol Records. So it's already a part of the music industry. Let me preface it by saying, like, there's a reason why so many artists now are having kids. Back in the day, they didn't. And it was a time of like, you're not allowed to be a wife, a husband, or be a parent. I mean, there was a lot of conditioning to be, and it was told to us to be desired. So boys had to want to be with you, girls had to want to be you, and that would not fit if you were pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
And so at 16, in California, you could just go and get an abortion. And I knew I was going to, well, I didn't know. I believed in my heart, like, I'm going to lose my job if I don't do this. Didn't tell my mom, didn't tell anyone, went and did this. And so in the Dolls now, I get pregnant, and then it was said, if you decide to keep the child, you're done. You're no longer a member of the group. So it was like, basically, you're going to lose your job. And I'm like, well, then how am I going to take care of this baby? Like, at that age, you're really thinking about that. And so you revert to what you know. And I reverted to what I had learned at 16, being with these institutions that had made it clear. So there was 2 in total in that time.
Yeah. Do you think that culture has changed at all now? I mean, we've seen famous A-list actresses get up on stage at the Oscars, accept an Oscar, and say, I'm so glad I had an abortion because it allowed me to reach this point in my career.
Yeah.
There was that, it sounded like very clearly spoken expectation of you all that would not be happening. You would not be going through a pregnancy and remaining with a job in that group. It seems like things have changed now. And while abortion is less stigmatized and I would say more popular now, it also, people sue over things like this, right? And so I just wonder what you think about this sort of trajectory of how this has changed in the music industry in terms of that expectation being put on women particularly.
I think it's changed in the aspect that we've opened up the dialogue to discuss things, which is huge, because that's when the light of God can come through, and we can have the reality discussion that this is not of God, right? This is not godly. To hear Halsey talk about, how she was going through losing a baby and having to wear a diaper to perform. I mean, that's the expectation. The expectations are like, you got to do what you got to do for the show. So do I think now it's changed? I think in certain areas it has changed. I don't think it's fully changed because, Halsey is a very new artist. So it's still something that's pretty prevalent where, the demands are, you don't get pregnant. And so that kind of, it's hard, but it gives me hope when I see things like Kylie Jenner having her children, or Hailey Bieber having her children and still modeling. I think that there is some change that's happening, and it would be wrong of me to not point out the change. Do I think it's drastically changed from when we were there? No, I think there's still going to be good, bad, and indifferent people. But I think that we've already begun a good work of, you can be a successful model, performer, and a mom. You can. And so I think that's the beginning of bigger changes that will come hopefully soon.
Well, if we're talking about changes to the music industry, we've got to talk about Diddy. We are now on the other side of his trial. We all learned a whole lot about him and his lifestyle. And what it seemed like to the public who is outside of the music industry was that he was operating almost as some kind of gatekeeper, that people had to kind of go through him, appease him, be in his circle, be at these parties to progress in their career. Do you think that that's true? And I'd love your thoughts on everything that's happened there and the effect that it's had on the music industry.
Well, I was very vocal speaking out about it because I think Elon Musk had tweeted something like, "Oh, I wonder who knew." So I wrote underneath it, I said, "Well, I've been talking for years, on this, and no one listened." I did feel that was I shocked? No. That there was allegations and things coming up? No, that wasn't shocking. I was like, "Oh, did he though?" Like, it was kind of like the R. Kelly feeling. I know that sounds I know that sounds funny, but to me,
No,
it
that
was
was the
like,
exact question I was going to ask you. You know, you had this experience with R. Kelly, you didn't
yeah,
see any of it, and then lo and behold, he's been doing all this horrific stuff. Same thing with P. Diddy. You must have been very familiar. Did you ever meet him? Did you know him in any capacity?
I didn't ever meet him, but there are people that have been working in this business that are far worse than these men. This is why I'm
Mm,
like, what's going on here?
yeah.
Like, these are the guys that you guys are going after.
So it gets worse than P. Diddy then in the music
Oh,
industry.
for sure, for
Oh.
sure. Well, if they can't even nail any of the evidence
Mm-hmm.
to Diddy, then the other people are never going to get caught.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was a heavy lift for them in the way that they tried to prosecute him on, you know, racketeering is a very difficult thing to, you know, pin someone on organized crime and running an organized crime
Yeah,
ring. But I mean, there was hotel video of him just absolutely being horrifically abusive and beating his
yeah,
girlfriend. And there was a lot of evidence that came out there.
I
Do
know.
you think that this has only desensitized the public to what goes on in the industry, or do you think that it has somehow shed some light so that people will not operate that way in the future?
Well, I hope that they don't operate that way. I really do. But at the end of the day, I think that our society has really become numb to like
Mm,
predatory behavior. Like the
yeah.
fact that you visually you see him beating his girlfriend, and it's just kind of like, oh, okay,
Mm-hmm.
like, what can we do about it? It's
Mm-hmm.
like you can make it that another woman doesn't get beaten. That's what you can do about it. I mean,
Absolutely.
I, you know, I very much so stood up for women with trafficking
Mm-hmm.
against trafficking. I've spoken very vocally about what I endured in the music industry. I've also spoken out about the fact that there's so many um, of these predator type men in this business. Nick Carter's even had allegations, and I
Mm-hmm.
believe every single one of them. By the way, let me
Wow.
preface it by saying that, and I was with him. But don't listen to the girl that dated him. Don't listen to me. Why listen to me? Don't listen to his brother who's now deceased. Don't
Mm-hmm.
listen to any of us. So it's very frustrating. It's very frustrating when that there's things that are wrong, but the world doesn't want to accept it. It's
Yeah.
almost like, no, that's not, no, because they have great songs. Their songs are so important. And it's like, I'm sorry, I don't care what their songs are. I don't care
Mm-hmm.
how many ticket sales they have. I don't care how famous the person is. If he's a rapist or a predator, he should not be able to operate to get close to young women, period.
Mm-hmm.
And that should be how we defend in the music industry. The good ones that are in the industry say, no way, don't
Yeah.
let this happen. And we can do it. Now, are we gonna do it? I don't know. I think that some of these individuals are eventually, God is just going to have to serve it.
Mm-hmm.
And so, unfortunately, we just got to keep believing that God is going to sort it out as best as
Yeah.
possible. But yeah, it's hard for someone like me when the verdict for the Diddy verdict came down. I just jaw on floor, but
Mm.
also like, wow, guys, seriously?
Do you see an
Yeah.
opening now, though, for more Christians in this industry doing the
Oh yeah.
work that you're doing? Because when you look at this resurgence of faith being
Yeah.
a popular lifestyle now, more popular than it used to be, you know, we're seeing revivals at churches and on college campuses, and church
Yeah.
attendance is going up. I mean, when
Yeah.
the moment American Idol had a faith night and we saw Brandon Lake and Jelly Roll out there, you know,
Yes.
you could really feel it very profoundly, this kind of
Yes.
this really
Praise
important
God.
shift that has happened in music specifically. You know, I love
Yes.
Forrest Frank and all these, like, all this great music is coming out. You're doing brilliant things within the industry. Is now the time for men and women of faith who want to make music? Is it time for them to step up and get in there? And is it safe for them to do so? What's your take on all that?
I think it is time for them to step up. And I think this is what's so amazing. And I actually did an interview when I was talking about Diddy. I was actually asking people to pray for him, because here's the reality is like, God came for all of us. Like, Do I believe salvation is real and no one's too far gone? No one's too far gone. Even if someone was a murderer in prison, if they give their life to the Lord and they commit their life and they repent for their sins and they begin a new work, then they allow God to do that new work through them. Anything is possible. What I love to see everyone in the music industry, including my former bandmates, people that have been predatory toward me, my ex that I do believe the allegations, absolutely. There would be nothing better than me to see these people give their life to Jesus, because at the end of the day, if they don't have Jesus, they're already dead. And I mean, that's the reality. We don't want to say that, but that's the truth. So yeah, do I hope that more? Absolutely. Do I think that it's happening? Yes. I see a massive move of the Holy Spirit in the industry, and it's fantastic, because what that means is that we're giving an opportunity for real women and men of God to sing and worship and to be able to be in the arena of, you know, mainstream music. It's crazy, and it's crazy good. So I'm for it. I'm excited. I hope that there's now, because of the light that's coming through these artists, including myself, that are getting to sing for the Lord, that the Lord really does his work through everyone that hears it, that he penetrates the hearts and starts to change. I pray for so many people that, you know, I've been friends with for years, and they've stayed in that world. You know, they've stayed in the world that I walked away from, and stayed in the aspect that they're still living a very ungodly life, right? And so, but do I know that God loves them? Yes. Do I pray all the time for former friends of mine? I pray for Katy Perry all the time. She was a really good friend of mine. I pray for her all the time, because she started as a Christian artist before she became a pop star. And it's crazy, because I was in the Pussycat Dolls when I met her, and she was a Christian artist. And now I look at what God's done. And I remember thinking at the time, like, oh, I wish I was like that. Like, I wish like, she's so awesome. She got to do that. And then I saw how God went, whoop, and he switched us. And, you know, she went full throttle into the pop world, and I went full throttle into, you know, the Christian gospel world. And so I'm just grateful that I'm able to continue to pray for my friends that I know that they know the Lord. I know that they know the Lord. So I just hope they give their life to him. Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting with you being on both sides of this arena, and seeing now as a Christian artist and singing for the Lord, as you say, you radiate light. It's really beautiful to see. Your whole persona is just so, it's beautiful, but you can see that light in you. And I hear what you're saying about, you know, these people who are still trapped in there, but it does sound like God's opening a door for people to go be light in that darkness. And so it's not easy, I'm sure. You still have to kind of battle it out with, you know, people who want to exploit artists, similar to what you went through. So I hope there are courageous people out there who want to go and not be corrupted by the industry. But now it's so enjoyable to watch you do so much with your giftings and your music. You've been very outspoken, especially recently, in support of Israel and the Jewish people. So tell us more about that.
So that's not just because I know people are like, she's being paid, she's doing that. No. Okay, I'm going to lay it all out. You're going to hear it here first. Okay. So my heritage on both my mother and father's side has Jewish, and I wanted Torah as a little girl. I wanted to go to synagogue, but I wanted Yeshua, and that was not acceptable, right? You either went to church and you had Yeshua, or you went to the synagogue and you got to read the Torah. And I was very displeased at this as a child, because I was like, what do you mean? He is the Torah. Why am I not studying this in the synagogue? I don't get it. I was so confused that everyone wasn't on board with this. So that's been since I was a little girl. I've always been the Jewish girl that loved Jesus. That's just who I am. And I never had a home church. I never grew up in church. When I finally sang that Christian song with Jason Crabb that won the Grammy, that was a prayer. Nobody knows that. That was a prayer to the Lord. Like, if I'm going to sing, I got to do it for you, and you got to send the people. And then he did. And so then it was like, okay, well, how am I going to do this? And I went to Nashville and I recorded some songs, but it was clear I needed to surrender and go into studying God. And that required going to Hebrew Bible College. And I, at the same time, not knowing what God was going to put me through, very similar to what I went through in the music industry with the Dolls, I was then thrusted into, you're going to have a show, it's going to be on a network, and you're going to run 83 content creators for a mega church network, and you're going to work for this mega church. And at the same time, I'm in Hebrew Bible College, and I started to write this album. And a lot of the album writing was coming from my past in the Dolls, but also what I was walking through serious Job season and salvation, where I'm in this mega church. I started Hebrew Bible College. I'm really submitting to God. And I didn't know that witchcraft was in ministries. Wow, I didn't know that the devil has infiltrated churches. Like, what? I was a girl that was coming like, praise God, wee! And then all of a sudden it was like, nope, the devil's made his way into ministries. And I'm like, this can't be happening. This is like a nightmare. But at the time when you're walking through it, you're like, is this really happening to me where I'm getting gaslit by the ministry? Is this really happening where something's happening to my ex-fiance where he takes off and, oh yeah, this is part of his salvation. And I'm just buying it. I'm buying all of it. I'm going, okay, well, that doesn't sound like salvation to me. And, you know, in that time, so I lost that year, 2022, it was 6 friends that died very, very abruptly, 2 dogs that died, my companies that completely went under, losing homes, losing who I thought I was going to marry. And the church was in the epicenter of all of those things.
Really?
Now, if you can believe, oh yeah. That was when I was like,
where did your ex-fiance go?
So he went back home to visit his mom, and unbeknownst to me, the church lured him in and had him give away all of his assets. Yeah.
To the church?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's a federal and IRS investigation. I wish I could go further, but
well, you poor thing. Here you are trying to come back to the faith, back to the church, and this is the church that you land at, the one who's going to try to take everything from you and everyone you know.
Yeah, it was kind of nuts.
Wow.
It really did open up my eye to understanding. And I think that's when kind of the Lord took, you know, the veil was removed. Now it was very clear. Now you're going to know my voice. Now you're going to know my word. And no matter where I throw you, you're going to be able to know who's with me and who's not with me. Because the counterfeit, here's the thing, guys. If you want to know if you're in a counterfeit church or ministry, or if there's divination operating or any kind of antichrist spirit, here's the key. If the word of God is secondary or you don't really hear much from it, that's a problem. First thing is, do they teach you how to pray? And I'm not talking about praying in tongues. Anyone that, trust me, I've seen the churches that are operating correctly. They can teach you about that, but the ones that aren't operating correctly can also teach you about that. Speaking in tongues is a gift. If you have the gift, there also has to be someone present who understands interpretation of that gift. Otherwise, it's straight BS, okay? So that's the first thing when it comes to speaking in tongues. Do they teach you any of the scriptures that loose the kingdom of heaven on earth? Because there's tons of them. And that's what I learned in Hebrew Bible School. I learned that there were prayers. I learned how important, when Jesus gave us the Lord's Prayer, how important that prayer is. So many people don't know, because we hear it in, you know, I've had friends go, I heard it in Sunday school. Do I need to keep doing it? Yes, every day. If you can do it every day, do it. So those churches are not going to teach you about prayer, and they're not going to teach you about proper repentance. And so repentance is, you know, yes, you're confessing it, but now 180 degrees, you got to turn and you got to go in the right direction. So there's an action, not just I'm saying it, but I'm going to show you, I'm not going to do this and continue to do this. And so that's the thing to look out for. But yeah, I was coming to the Lord. I was so sold out. And then I got a rude awakening of, it's not just in the music industry. The devil's made his way everywhere. Yeah.
Oh, that's so true. You know, we both, I know, agree on this sort of cultural epidemic of misinterpreting scripture that's everywhere now. And what I hear you saying is that God has gifted you with discernment, and that, you know, people who who are believers, even the deepest lifelong believers, need excellent discernment right now, because with how prevalent social media is, and now people who are faith leaders, pastors, people who want to put themselves out there as some kind of scriptural or religious authority, even though maybe they didn't go to seminary, they've not been through any kind of proper theological training. They're just out there doing what we're all doing. We're creating content, and there is not the same vetting that we used to have, right? And so people need to be so careful about what you are getting in church and from church, even on social media or other media platforms, because there's a lot of blasphemous content that's just flat out wrong. And we have to, you don't know that it's wrong, to your point, that you're making, and your life's journey here is that God gave you these experiences so you could determine what is true and what is false. And we really need more of that today. Well, God bless you for the work that you're doing. I want to ask you about one more thing, Kaya, while I've got you. And it's just this cultural kind of contemporary trend right now that's pretty disturbing. And that's this sort of highly sexualized culture of free sex, people saying they're sex positive. We're seeing sex stunts, like these women who are saying, well, I'm sleeping with 1,000 men in 24 hours. OnlyFans popularity. Obviously through the music industry, we have seen some of this. There are certain artists who want to really just shock people with their sexuality, even talking about it in lyrics. But what do you think about this? You are a redeemed woman who God has brought through the fire, and he's using your life to really kind of, as a cautionary tale, I would almost say.
And he really has.
And showing people,
truly.
what a good, healthy life with Christ looks like. I mean, like I said, you're just radiating it. What would you say to our young women and our girls coming up in this culture right now, how to be wise to it and be wary?
Yeah, I see a lot about that. I know who you're speaking about. Some of the girls, I've kept them in prayer. Bonnie being one of them. I've been praying for her because it's a Jezebel spirit that's moving through her, and it just is heartbreaking to see young women have no self-esteem. Because if you had self-esteem, you wouldn't date that way. Because I dated my self-esteem, and I picked the worst people possible for me because I wasn't loving myself. I wasn't even honoring my temple that God made. And so my message to young girls, definitely this album is a great message to tell you that you're royal, that God made you perfect, that he wants you to know that you're a diamond, that you're a treasure, that you're the apple of his eye, and that your value doesn't come from the things you can give to people. At the end of the day, your value comes from who God made you in here, and then radiating that outside to the world, whether that's being a good neighbor or being a good student or, eventually a good mother and wife, which are such underrated jobs. Underrated. Being a wife and a mother is the most incredible thing a woman can do. And so I would just encourage young women in this time, look in the mirror and remind yourself every day, if you have to, how just perfectly made you are, and God loves you so much, and he wants the best for you. And even though those choices may seem like they're going to get you further along, listen to my story and hear it loud and clear. I had all of that, and it still was not fulfilling. In fact, it required me to give up the precious gifts from heaven, like my children, and I can never take that back. And the pain that I've had to walk through of like, I wish I had had my children. I never go through that, girls. Like, you don't need to have the baby, meet the awesome man, do the right thing, and everything will be given to you. Seek ye first the kingdom of heaven, and then all will be granted unto you. And so, don't fall for the noise. Definitely don't fall for the noise. And just to kind of follow up on the whole Israel thing, because I felt like I didn't finish that when I realized so I was in Hebrew Bible College when I was finishing Hebrew Bible College when the war started. So my reaction was actually like, oh, the birthing pains have started. Like, literally, that was, the birthing pains have started. The Messiah is coming soon. I need to go and serve in Israel. And I went and I brought aid and helped care packages for women and children. And so I listened to so many of the stories. I met with so many people there. And when you get up close and personal with a situation, not from CNN, not from, Fox, not from any socials, just I was there, and, December 10th, 2023, stayed a month, volunteered, went back in 2024 for another 3 months to volunteer again and serve in any way that I could and pray for people. It really did give me a bird's eye view of the reality of the frightening scariness that we're facing, which is this culture that is a death cult. And I just want to say that was why I have been pulled. It was because I was in Bible college. I'm reading the Word of God every day, and I'm like, which prophecies have been fulfilled? Which ones haven't? When is the Messiah set to come? We're not going to know, but they're going to be signs. And the moment that everyone started to turn against Israel, I was like, oh, this is surely it. Yeah.
That is incredible. What a courageous step to go over there and serve with your own boots on the ground. I was just having a conversation with someone. We did an episode of Politically Basic with Zach Bauer. He runs an organization called Passages Israel, and he takes groups of college students to Israel, right up to the envelope, the Gaza envelope, and lets them see and experience for themselves, just like what you're saying. If we're going to have fired up opinions about this, or we're going to scream and shout about what we should be doing or what they should be doing, if we're going to pick a side, we've got to be educated, and that's one of the best ways to do it. And I love your heart that you just were bold and you went and did that and saw for yourself. That is so remarkable. Kai, I want people, I hope they will, and I know they will, go download your music, find you, follow you, but maybe leave my listeners too with one final thought and encouragement for anybody who does want to pursue a career in music today. What advice would you give them? Are there support organizations? Are there labels you would recommend? Are there people who would welcome them in and not into that exploitative side of the industry?
Yes. So I'm really honored that I am a member of the Voting Academy, the Grammy Academy. I know they've gotten a lot of back and forth from certain performers have been more one way than another. Yeah, we're in the music industry. There are performers that don't worship Jesus, guys. That happens. We're still to be a part of this discussion. We still have a seat at the table. I won a Grammy with Jason Crabb for singing Ruth's Gospel. So am I going to turn away from the music recording? No, absolutely not. So I believe that the Grammy Academy has a lot of good opportunities for a young artist. If you go onto their website, you can see that they have programs where you could be a student, or if you've just started to release content, they get you get approved or not. And don't get discouraged if you don't get approved. Try again when you release more music, right? And become a part of the institution that's going to work on legislation for music, work on opportunities. Also, they have a lot of events and they invite people because they want you to connect with more music people. That's been a really good community for me. And I'm honored that I won an award. I'm honored that I'm up for consideration for this album.
Oh, amazing. Yes.
Yeah. So I'm so grateful. That's going on right now. So I'm asking everyone that is a voting member to listen to the album. Just listen to my album and let me know what you think, because it is up for consideration. But also Shiloh Records. So I launched Shiloh Records, and we're looking for artists. And we work with the JC Project, which is a crypto. We do NFTs of some of the different music content, artwork as well. I work with Forge Media. We're doing films. We're doing podcast shows, all the different things. So, and Shiloh TV is our streaming. So we definitely get in contact with me, get in contact with us. We would love to see if we can help, but there are people like us that are doing it independently that want you to feel confident and comfortable. And if we can't help you, at least we can send you in the right direction, that you can do this. So my nugget for advice is, if you want to do this, first and foremost, do it for the Lord, because it's the best, and will change your life for the better, and just do it the right way out the gate. Because I didn't. I had to go through all of the problems before getting to the Lord. And even, you know, when I said what I went through with ministry, you know, there are great ministries out there. So if you're singing in your choir, keep singing. But if you're in a place where you're thinking that's going to get you further, and you're dealing with things, yeah, you're working in a hospital for the sick. It's a spiritual hospital. So understand that that's a season, learn, grow, but don't just stay there. You can be more than just singing for your Sunday. You can take it everywhere globally, as you should, because the church is without walls at this point. We need to move and be the fragrance of the Lord everywhere we go. And you know, when people don't know Jesus and you know Jesus, wow, you don't even need to say his name. Show up and show them who he is, so that when they want to know, and they always do, like, what do you believe? You know, then you can share about Jesus. But maybe they're in a point where they can't even understand that, you know, but that kindness is going to show them God. That word of encouragement is going to show them God. So if you want to do this for real, you can. There are good institutions out there. And definitely, I would say go for it, and go for it singing the right way out the gate. Do it for the Lord. You can't mess up when you do it for him.
Beautifully, beautifully said. And you have a website where people can go follow you and get information. What is that?
Yes. So it's KayaJones.com.
Perfect.
KayaJones.com.
Amazing. Oh, I can't thank you enough, Kaya, for just sharing your story, your incredible story, really, truly of redemption, and sharing with us how God is using your life today through all of it. I hope that you will join me again on the show in the future and we can get caught up again. But this has just been such a wonderful and delightful conversation. And God bless you in everything that you're doing going forward. But thank you for joining me today.
Thank you, Kyle. It was such an honor. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you all for joining us on this episode of Politically Basic, where we break down the basics of all political issues and let you decide. Be sure to follow us at politicallybasic.com and at Politically Basic on all socials so you don't miss a single episode. We'll see you next time.